Whitetail Advantage Podcast with your host, Brett Bovin. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy the show.
What is up, everyone? This is the Whitetail Advantage Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Bovin. With me tonight is the producer of the show. We like to call him as the Deucer. He's there in the background. You can't see him, but I can't see him either. So he's like a ghost there. I don't know if you believe in ghosts, but you know what? I could believe in ghosts. Yeah, that's weird. Anyways, if this is the first time tuning into the show, each week we cover a state. We do a live show Monday through Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Each week we bring on a new guest for each day. Sorry about that. And we figure out what makes them successful out in that state. Figure out what's their ins and out, what are they doing out there, and how we like to do that because it sees how it can help you out in the field. We do a lot of things here on the show. With our live shows, we give the listener the option to come on the show. We ask the guests direct questions. If that is something you want to do, message us on Facebook and we will get you on the show. So yeah, that's an opportunity. If you have a question for the guest, message us on Facebook or send us a question at our website at whitetailadvantage.com. This show, I'd like to start off by saying this is going to be a new intro that we're going to be doing. So excuse me for the ins and outs of the bugs, stuff like that. We're working on the kinks. This show can be controversial at times. With that being said, all I ask for you is put a quarter in the slot machine. What do you mean by that, Brett, when I say that? Well, it's simple. Help us spread the word about hunting. And if you like the show, you get a kick out of it, or you just like an episode, all we ask when you do that, share the show. Because hunting is dying, everyone. It's sad to say. People nowadays, they just want to sit on their fat fucking asses and watch TikTok all day long and not do anything. They want to sit there and eat Cheetos when I want to go outside and go out hunting. And these new kids nowadays, they just want to watch TikTok. Like I said, they don't want to get out in the woods. They want to be lazy. So that being said, though, all I ask is, I'm not going to get down that rabbit hole. We're going to save that rabbit hole for another time. But that's all we ask for. But with that being said, tonight is episode 56. And please, let's give a round of applause for our guest tonight, Jon. Hey, Jon.
How's it going, brother?
Oh, it's going good. Today here in Michigan, we had 70-degree weather, man. It was awesome. It felt great. There was no wind. I mean, heck, last Friday, we reached up to gust winds of almost 50 miles an hour. Trees were falling down left and right. I had to swerve a bunch of times in and out of the road because trees were just crumbling everywhere. Heck, we went on a walk the other day. Come to find out, a pine tree, huge one, fell in the road of our neighbor's driveway on the main road in the subdivision. So I was like, oh, shit. Glad no one got hurt.
Yeah. Funny you say that. We had, not this last weekend, I think it was the weekend before, we had like 55 to 60 mile an hour gusts for 3 days straight. And that's blowing pretty hard. But I mean, we have that fairly regularly out here. And like today, it was blowing like 40 miles an hour. And it's like, it's just another day for us. It's just out here, Kansas without the trees and stuff. It's just like, okay. Is what it is. Not a big deal. Tighten your hat down.
Real quick, that's a question I've been dying to ask someone from Kansas. Is it really that windy all the time out there because it's so open, so flat?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. When you get a calm day, you better take advantage of it because they're few and far between.
That sucks, man. I know that when I'm out there hunting, not hunting, but out there mowing my lawn or just doing anything, like I'm literally doing nothing but moving at the same time, and it's a windy day, I can go inside and just be dead ass tired when it comes 5 o'clock, and it's like I barely did anything. I just went outside and moved sticks around.
Yep.
That's crazy, man. I can't stay in the wind.
No, but I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
For everyone that doesn't know you, Can you give a little background about you?
Okay. Well, my name's Jon Landwehr. I live out in Western Kansas. It's kind of, I call it central Western Kansas. We're not really the western part of the state, but we're pretty dang close. I do have a page with my really good buddies, Angelo Giannone and Tyler Wilbur. It's called Legacy Pursuit. We've got a YouTube channel, Instagram channel, or an Instagram page, and then we're also all three on Facebook and stuff. But we're kind of trying to build that brand here the last year or so. So yeah, that's pretty much. I mean it. I grew up deer hunting. Well, actually, I didn't really grow up deer hunting. My family was more upland bird hunters, and I think it's like the sixth grade. I kind of started getting into deer hunting myself, and didn't really have a mentor or nothing. I just kind of had to learn everything on my own as I went. I made a lot of mistakes, but I want to say that's our greatest teacher is our own mistakes. So somebody can tell you something of how to do it, and until you go out and do it and screw it up, I don't think you really learn. So
No, I mean, that's everyone goes out there wanting to succeed, and you learn through those success sometimes. But like you said, the more you learn is through the failures and the mistakes that you made. That's where those real improvements and real life lessons come in, is in those moments, not during the successes. And like
yeah,
I always say, a true man's character is defined when his losses, when his back is against the wall. That's when you're going to find out his character and what he's learned.
absolutely. I've been fortunate enough to kill quite a few big deer, but I'd be lying to you if I told you that I didn't screw up on a lot more big deer. I've had a lot more heartbreaks, than anything. So,
Well, real quick, I noticed you got a bunch of freaking mounts on your wall. You want to run through those real quick? Man, that one over your shoulder is huge.
yeah, this one right here behind me, that's Zeus. That's the 230-inch gross. Okay, that's not net. That's gross buck that I killed back in 2021. And then let's say this one right here is a set of sheds I found. He's in the 170s. This one's in the 150s. That's a deadhead. And then there's another really nice 8-pointer. That's just a deadhead I found too.
Oh man, still,
You
that's
don't want to see
pretty.
my house. There's 10 times more in the house, all around the house. So I almost need to buy a bigger house because it's filling up with mounts and everything.
My wife, we had an agreement. She's like, I don't want a bunch of deer heads over in our house. I get you're a hunter. I get you love it, but you're gonna have your one spot that's dedicated just for your deer heads. I'm like, all right. She's like, but you can spend whatever you want with it, but you got one place for it. I said, but there's gonna be that one deer that I want in the main part of the living room that everyone sees. And that one,
Absolutely.
though, is at my parents' house.
No,
And
really.
real quick with that. So my dad shot this giant buck back when I was in high school. Then I shot my big buck, I consider my big buck, a couple years ago. He said, all right, let's get it mounted. You deserve it. So I said, sweet. All right. The next question was, where are we going to mount it? He said, you know what, Dad? I'm going to put it right there next to yours because his is on the wall and it's facing to the right. He said, you know what? I'm going to go on your wall and face it to the left. So that way my deer is staring at your deer because mine was bigger. So I had to rub it in his face all the time. So I was
There
like,
you go.
so now every day you wake up, you guys see that my deer was bigger than your deer, and my deer is looking at your deer like, fuck you.
There you go. Heck yeah.
Yeah, that's just the relationship my dad and I have. Sorry.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely. No, thankfully my wife doesn't care too much. I've got, my two 170s, the two 200s, and the 180. They're in the living room, and along with Blake's deer, that big one he shot last year. They're all in the living room. So as soon as you walk in the front door, those are the ones you see. So every time I walk in from getting home from work, I get to look at them. So
Yeah. And I did notice though on that Zeus is his name.
yeah.
Are those double brow tines or is that just a wall?
So he's got, well, what you're looking at, he's got 3 main beams on his left side. So you're seeing one of the main beams coming off And then that's also kind of a point that comes straight out. It's just the way you're looking at him. He's got his brow, and then he's got another point. It's just a big kicker coming off the front.
Oh, is that the photo you sent me? That's the big one you shot, right?
Yeah. Because
Okay,
he's got
yeah.
basically almost 2 main beams on the right, or on his right, and 3 main beams on the left side.
Yeah, now I know what buck you're talking about. Man, that was just a beauty of a buck, man.
Yeah. I like to say I'll never top that deer, but I was about this close to topping him last year. So I'm not going to say I'll never top him, because it could happen. We've got the genetics.
Yeah, I mean, you're in Kansas. I mean, you have to.
Yeah, right. The biggest thing now is just getting the age on them. You got to get, they got to get to 5, 6 years old in order to blow up into that. And I actually found his shed from 2020. I found it last summer, and he was a 200-inch typical the year before.
Really?
Yeah. So what happened is the one shot I found, he had actually part of his skull with the pedicle, and so I think that's how he got all those crazy points. Is when he shed hard and kind of screwed up his pedicle. But he was forget what he was, like 92 or 93 inches, a 93-inch antler on that typical on that one side, and then the shit that killed him, he drew all the junk. He's not very wide either. He's only 13 inches wide, so he's really narrow.
Yeah, I can tell. I mean, just looking, his main beams right there, basically almost touching him.
Yeah. Just imagine if that deer ended up being 20 inches wide, how big he'd be.
Dude, you'd be on every news article out there, man. I mean,
yeah, it'd be awesome to add another, 8 to 10 inches to him for sure.
No kidding. You mentioned getting up to about the 5 and 6 years old. Is that something, a place in your hunting career that you're at right now?
Yeah.
Or is that something that you kind of look for the most?
So the biggest thing to me is going to be an age class. I do shoot, pretty good deer every year, or at least try to, but the most thing I'm shooting for is that age class. If there's a 5 or a 6 or 7-year-old deer that, he's going to go, maybe 140s or 150s, I'm going to go after him. I'm going to try to kill him. But then in the same sense, there's a lot of places out here, because our deer roam so much. Just kind of case in point, I found a shed to a buck that I was actively hunting this year. I know he's an old deer. I'm going to guess he was 10, 11 years old. So I was hunting him, and he was probably maybe in the high 150s. And I was hunting him in the fall. I had pictures of him all the time, just right there at the cusp of daylight. And I ended up finding his shed here about a month and a half ago. And I found his shed almost 4 miles from where I was hunting him. So that tells you how much our deer roam and how far they'll go. So, like Zeus, they aged him when I killed him at 4.5 years old. So, I don't know that for sure. They didn't pull teeth or anything. It was just when the game warden came and looked at him, he looked at his teeth and he guessed him at 4.5 years old. With him being pretty much a 200-inch typical, or just about a typical the year before, I have a hard time believing he was a 3-year-old as a 200-inch 3-year-old, but I don't know for sure. But if you have a deer of this magnitude show up and he's a 4-year-old, tell me you're not going to kill him.
That's a point I've been wanting to make, and I was going to make it on tomorrow's episode, but we're going to kind of get into the precursor of it. But you get this nowadays where people are talking about, oh, I'm after age class and this and that. I want to get them to a certain age. I get that. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I'd like to see a deer get to that highest potential, and I want to see an old deer. Heck, I was just going through old trail camera photos from last year. I saw a deer that hit I have to say, almost 8 years old, only because he was fat, and you could tell just by his fur. His legs were all fat and chunky. He had that huge gut. He had the huge bulge in his neck. I didn't see the antler size, and I think his antlers fell off at the time. But what I was getting with that is, yeah, it'd be cool to shoot. But if I see a 4-year-old deer that's pushing close to 200, Don't tell me I'm going to shoot that 4-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even, even a 160-inch 4-year-old. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's all about, so the biggest thing is it's whether or not if you own the property or can control the property to where you can let those deer go. If you own a 1,600 acre chunk of land, that nobody else can hunt or step foot in, sure, I can see you letting, a 170-inch 4-year-old walk to let him, get to his full potential. But when you're hunting, 150 acres here and 80 acres here, and then, 300 acres, 400, 4 miles down the road, that's kind of just not the way you can do it. If you try to do that, it's almost impossible because especially with the way the outfitters are getting, that deer's going to get killed. And now I know I always kind of go back to the my vote doesn't count, so I'm not going to vote. So it's like if everybody gets that mindset, you're never going to get those big deer, or you're not going to get them to that age class. But like I said, if you have the big acres to let them grow, then, and if you want to do that, by God, do it. But if I see a 170-inch 4-year-old deer, it's like, okay, there's Milo planted here. He's here now. It's just like 80 acres or whatever, and I have nothing else I can hunt around it. I'm probably going to go after the damn deer. I think that's just the way it is. Yeah, would I love to see all these deer to get to maturity? Absolutely. But that's just not the reality of it anymore.
No.
And,
oh, sorry, let me cut you off.
So that 180-inch buck that I killed a couple of years ago, it was the fall before this last fall. I just got permission on this property. It was literally an 18-acre chunk. Like, it wasn't very big, but I was able to pull them off of the neighbors. So I had no history with any of the deer. So this 180-inch deer walks in and I kill him. I can tell, yeah, he's not 7, 8 years old, but he's a big deer, and I don't know the deer around there. Well, the neighbor about a mile and a half south of there sent me pictures of the deer, and he was only a 4.5-year-old buck. He even sent me pictures of when he was a 3-year-old, and he just blew up, when he got to 4 years old. Could that deer be pushing 200 as a 5, 6-year-old? Absolutely, he could have. He was making those big jumps. But when you don't know that, you don't have the history with those deer, and within 3 miles, you've got 7 or 8 different people hunting, or leases from guys from out of state. If they see that deer, they're going to shoot it. You can't tell me that they're not a 180-inch buck. I mean, who in their right mind from Texas, who has the lease next door to you, isn't going to shoot him?
I mean, the neighbor where I hunt next to, he's been trying to do that. And I told him, yeah, I'll help out as much as I can. But like you said, you don't know what the history that deer's been doing. And you just see, oh, that's a giant deer. I want to go after him. And you might have everyone down your entire street on the same mindset of, all right, we all get to a meeting. And it's like, all right, let's all show up our deer that we've got photos of. And all right, let's pass on this deer. Let's shoot this deer. But who's this? It's not like these deer are just moving east to west or north and south. They're moving in giant circles. So you have to basically talk to people within 10 square miles if you really want to make a dent in your own little area. Say, you know what, these are the type of deer we shoot, but that's just not the reality we live in. And yeah.
And like this year when I shot my buck this year, Megatron, he's got the split D2s and stuff. I was actually after a bigger buck than him. And I knew hunting him that he was going to be pushing that 200-inch mark. And I had 3 encounters with him, but just couldn't get the job done. I just couldn't get a clear shot on him. A doe comes running by with him behind her, and I can't get him stopped. Whatever the case was. But I ended up not being able to get him killed. So come rifle season, the neighbor to the east of me, these guys from Texas, so where I'm hunting, we call it the seed plant. It's literally only I think it's 21 acres or something. And it's just this one spot. I can hunt nothing else around it for miles. But this 200-inch buck was coming across the road, back and forth, checking for does. But These guys from Texas had the 1,300-acre chunk leased to the east of me. So come rifle season, they shot him at like 500 and some yards and killed him. He ended up going 207. And it's like, so, even the deer that I ended up killing, if they would have seen him, they would have shot him.
Yeah.
So there's just a fine line. Like I said, if you have the acreage and you can do it and keep them, if you've got the food plots, if you've got the water, the cover, everything, to where they should, to where they shouldn't leave, and you want to gamble on them, great. It's like, I think Lee Lakowski said, when you gamble on a deer, there's like a 10% chance that deer is going to make it, whether it's predation, disease, or other hunters. There's a small chance that deer is going to make it. So, it just depends on what you want to do. But like I said, it's like I'm going to shoot the deer now because I know the neighbor's going to. There's a really fine line right there. Yeah, but like I said, if there's a big deer and you want to shoot him, shoot him. I don't care if he's 4 years old or if he's 10 years old. And that's just kind of where I've had to gotten to these last few years, because like I said, we've got these outfitters and stuff around that are shooting any 120, 130 inch buck walks, and they're shooting it.
Right.
So, if I see 170 inch plus, I'm probably going to go after him.
I don't blame you one bit. And you brought up outfitters. It's one thing that I was wanted to talk about. I noticed on the Kansas website, and excuse me, but I have to make sure I get the wording right on this. So it looks like a bill was introduced back in February of last year, and the title of it is Establishing a Hunting Outfitter Task Force that shall study the hunting outfitter industry in the state of Kansas and may make recommended changes to the law and rules and regulations. It goes on to state towards the middle of this article, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically they want to be in communication to establish best practices with the intent to develop mutually beneficial outcomes through consistent communication and collaboration. Basically, in my opinion, reading off of this, and I don't like outfitters. I think, in my opinion, they are one of the main causes of why hunting is dying, because they're soaking up all this land and they're raising these deer. Like you said, they have so much land that they can't hold these deer there, and they're asking people to come hunt on their property, but yet they're charging $5,000 for 2 days basically to come out there and hunt, and they're babysitting you while you do it. And I like I said, outfitters, I can't fucking stand. Sorry, excuse my French, but I mean, you and I talked about it. It's basically taking someone. It's like, you know what? I want to do what I want to do, but I'm going to make you spend all your paycheck to come hunt. And at the end of the day, there's no guarantee. You just spent $5,000 for a 2-day hunt, and who knows if you're going to get a deer? They can tell you all they want of, well, we're going to put you in the right stand, and we're going to do all the land management. We know this deer. He's going to be traveling on this day at this time, and it's like, because you have 5,000 acres, you have trail camera every 2 inches. So I expect you to be able to do that. And you're coddling hunters to come out there and hunt. And you're not teaching new hunters what to do.
Right.
I mean, I can go on and on about this. I think outfitters suck. I wish that they would basically ban outfitters from the country, because that's my take.
I do think that there, and actually know some of them that are outfitters, that there are some outfitters out there that I think do a good job. There are some outfitters that don't run 100 people through their place every year. Some of them only maybe run 5 or 6 through on 5,000 acres, and they have standards that you have to uphold. It's either 150 inch buck or over 5 years old. 5 years or older. There's a few of them out there do that. But I think that the ones that are just trying to run as many people as they can through their camp to try to make money are the ones that are screwing it up, because they're not putting limits to what they can hunt. If 120 inch buck walks in, they shoot it. Oh, great, yay, pay me. That's all they're worried about. So I think it's just gotten to where it's too commercialized. I think it's sick, but And it's just like hunters, you have a lot of bad hunters out there that give all hunters a bad name. I think the same thing is with outfitters. I think there are a few good ones out there that try to do the good thing, but there's, I think, the 80% of them that don't, that just they don't actually care about the deer. All they're caring about is the money that they're making. And those are the ones that I think are just making everybody look bad. And like you said, I know, hell, even when I was back in high school, if you went and asked them for somebody for permission, they give it to you. I mean, to get permission now on a piece of ground, it's like pulling teeth. It's like, oh, well, so and so from Texas is paying me $10,000 to hunt my quarter of ground. Why would I let you just go hunt? And I don't blame the farmer or the landowner for doing that. If they're not taking their money, I mean, if they're willing to give it to you, you're stupid. That's paying your taxes. That's paying your land payments for the year. I get it. I really do. But it's just gotten to where hunting is just about how much money you have. The people that have the most money, these doctors, these lawyers and stuff, can come out here and buy ground, lease ground, everything. And we're losing it. The locals, the residents, you're pretty much running out of places to hunt. And there is good walking out there. There is good public land out there. But, you're fighting with every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there to hunt that too. So it's really tough. It's making it harder. Like I said, unless you just got a ton of money and you can just buy whatever you want and this, that, and the other. And I know a couple of guys from out of state that do have the money to buy land, and they're great, good, down to earth guys who run their land like that. Only shoot mature deer. I've got a guy that I know that passed up a really big, probably 170-inch 14-pointer this last year because he was young. He wanted to let him walk to try to get to that 5-6-year-old. Yeah. And I like that. That's good to me. That's the way you want to do it. But like you said, there's that line right there. It's, you have a few good ones, and then, all the rest of them are total shit and just want to buy up everything they can. These guys that they come and get thousands of acres for one person to hunt. I mean, come on. You're coming into the state and leasing up 5,000-6,000 acres, and it's you and a buddy that come hunt and basically do it just so nobody else has anywhere to go. I hate that. It's like around me. It's like all the river bottom ground, all the stuff that used to be good ground, in my opinion. Good luck getting on any of it because it's not happening unless you've got $50,000 to lease it to hunt. No, you're not doing it. There's no fucking way. So, that's how I've actually been killing all these big deer is I'm hunting everything around there because I think these big deer go there, they summer there. But these big old deer aren't stupid. As soon as they feel pressure, they're gone. They're out. So I'm finding all these deer out in these milo fields and stuff early season. After they feel the pressure, they get pushed out and everything, and then just be smart about it. Don't let the damn deer know that you're there and get him killed. I don't have to hunt the best property that there is out there. I'm just going to wait for all these out-of-state guys to come push them all out. Then I'll kill them.
That's a good point. I mean, and then heck, I remember reading an article, I think it was last year, the year before. I can't remember what company did, but a huge, I think it was Cabela's, but don't quote me on that, bought like basically 90% of the land in Polk County, Indiana. Or maybe I got my county and state wrong, but I think it was Polk County in Indiana. I'm pretty sure. They bought up so much land there that no one could basically hunt there anymore. And then you have that issue going. And like you said, you have people that come out there. You have 3 buddies that want to lease land, and they're only out there maybe a week total out of a hunting season. And it's like, really? You just leased up 100 acres that now no one else can hunt because you own it. And so when I see these properties going for sale, I'm like Whitetail Properties and all these other places that you basically, if you don't buy 100 acres or more as like something that you want to move on to, you're going to have no hunting land to buy because someone's going in there and lease it. You're going to have Because when I've been looking around for hunting property, you maybe see maybe 5 acres, and then after that, it's 100 acres for a huge chunk of money.
Yeah.
So you got to play that part out, right? And that leads me into the question of, you'd mentioned it though, that a lot of people going down there are leasing up a lot of land and they're not hunting as much. How are you managing that? I mean, you briefed on it right there, but how are you managing that with your own hunting style of having to deal with all of these other people coming in and leasing it, and just all this land kind of being taken around? I mean, I did read it's near 300,000 public land, 300,000 acres of public land. Are you public land, private land? How are you managing it down there in Kansas?
So I hunt both. Really, the main tool that I use is preseason scouting. I start in June, July, August. 3 months leading up to hunting season. So this is the big thing for me is the milo fields early season, because I don't care what. What's that?
What do you mean by milo fields? I'm sorry. I'm just for the listener at home.
So what it is, it's grain sorghum. So it's a plant that gets about chest high, and it shoots a head about, I don't know, yay big, and it's just full of grain.
Okay.
And so once that matures and it ripens and stuff, and it makes the grain, all the deer go to these fields. I don't care if you've got the best river bottom ground in the world. When those milo fields are ready, that's where the deer are going to go. I guarantee you. I don't care how many feeders you have on your property, whatever it may be. You could go dump a semi-load of grain on the ground, of corn on the ground. Those deer are still going to go to that milo field. Sometimes it's the closest milo field. Sometimes there's 3 milo fields in between where they summered and where they go in September to these other fields. They might travel 5-6 miles to go get to the whatever field it is that they want to be in. And they go into these milo fields, and until they're cut in October, that is basically where they live. The only thing they're going to do is come out of that field to go to water and go right back in. They bed in those milo fields, and they stay. So my biggest strategy is starting the first week of June, when all the farmers are out planting their milo crops. I'm watching where all this milo is going to be planted, and I'm dropping pins, everything. And I'm just watching everything around it, whatever cover's closest that I can get permission on, that milo field particular, because I've lived here for enough years. I know that if this certain field's planted the milo, there's either going to be deer there or there's going to be 0 deer there. So I'm looking for those fields in specific, what water sources and what water source is the closest. If there's water close by, say we had a good year and the ponds are all full, whatever the closest water source is, I'm going to hone in on that. And if we have a drought where a lot of the ponds, like this last year, a lot of these ponds dried up, those water sources are gone. Okay, so where are they moving to now to get to that water? So it's a lot of just scouting. I mean, almost every night being out in the car with a spotting scope, just watching. There's a lot of times, a lot of evenings you don't see a dang deer, and then there's some evenings that you see just the right deer. And it's like, okay, that's where he's at. Bet your ass opening day, that's where I'm going to be.
What is it about this place, that type of field, a grain? What is it so special about that where it's like, I'm going there? Is there something special in it? Or like, do they put some special seed in there? It's like, oh, unicorn feed for the deer. Like, gotta have it. What makes it so special?
So I think the biggest thing is that time of year, that is going to, other than browse and stuff, that is just their main food source out here as far as grain, because we don't have very much corn. The soybeans by that time have pretty much started to defoliate, so they're not really palatable anymore. Well, the little soybeans we do have around here. So that's just what they're used to. That's our biggest crop around here, other than wheat. And our wheat gets harvested in July, end of June, July. So that wheat's gone. So as soon as that milo crop is ready, that's just where they go, because that is just the biggest food source that they have. But it's just kind of like when you get to late December, January, pretty much when they're shedding their antlers, the winter wheat, which is the green source, that's where they all go to. If you're going to go find sheds, you have got to look at that green food source because that's pretty much the only one they have. So that's where they're going to go to. So I think that's just kind of the way it is that's that main food source for all the deer around here. So that's just where they go.
Now, this is just, I guess if you want to call it a stereotype, when I think of Kansas, I just think of flat land that's just tall grass. I mean, do you have a lot of food plots being put into Kansas? I'm sure there is. Obviously, I'm sure people are planting like clover and stuff like that. But that's the thing that I think of. It's just open fields of grass, and it's like, all right, now I got to figure out how to hunt them out there.
So when you get the eastern part of the state, you are going to see a lot more food plots and stuff. But as you get out this way towards me, you don't hardly see any food plots at all. And if you drive down I-70, the interstate that cuts right through the middle of Kansas, yeah, you are going to think it's pretty damn flat. You get out a few miles off interstate on either side, though, it is anything but flat. We have hills and cuts and canyons and just all kinds of places that these deer hide in, just big thermal cover and stuff in these big draws and canyons. That's where they go. And there's times that I've seen deer literally, okay, there he is. He's walking, all of a sudden, boom, he's gone. He dropped down into a low spot or a cut, and he's gone. It like I said, everybody does think that it's flat, but it is anything but flat out here.
Huh. Kind of debunked what I thought now of Kansas. It's like a bubble that just got busted. No, you're wrong. It's like a half a state type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So on the west side of the state, it's mainly the flatlands then.
Yeah.
Where that's where you're at, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What's it like trying to hunt? I mean, I'm looking at one of the photos here on your Instagram page, and I see nothing. It's just you and the deer. And so what's it like? What's your strategy trying to, it looks like it's more of a hunt and stock type of deal.
Yeah, it really is. Especially, like I said, when they're living in the milo fields and stuff. So in Kansas, it is legal to bait. So in these big giant milo fields, it's really hard because, like I said, a lot of times it's chest high, sometimes even almost up to your nose of where these deer are living. So trying to do a spot and stock and shoot one in these milo fields with a bow, good luck. With a muzzleloader, yeah, you can do it. But with a bow, it's pretty rough. It's pretty damn hard. You can do it. It's just a lot of stocks. You get busted on a lot of stocks. So like I said, we can bait in this state. So it is, if you know this deer's in this milo field, I'm probably going to get between where I know he's bedding and his water source and put bait out in between there somewhere, like at the edge of the field or whatever, and try to set up somewhere, like I said, as he's going to water in the evening or something like that, try to set up. Now come rut, when these big deer get these does locked down and they get them out in the open away from everybody, I use a heads up decoy. It'll go on the front of my bow, or if you got somebody filming you or whatever it might be, they can hold it. And it's pretty much just a silhouette of a deer. So spot and stock with that works really awesome. I killed quite a few deer doing that. Me and my kids actually all have killed quite a few deer doing that spot and stock with the decoy in the rut. If that buck sees you with that decoy in your hand, I mean, it's on. I shot that 170-inch. I call him an 8-pointer. He's a mainframe 8, but I shot him at 3 yards with that decoy. So it was pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I was actually on my knees, drawn back, and when I shot, he was all bristled up and everything. And when I shot, he was kind of turning his head to come into the decoy to hit the decoy that was on the front of my bow.
What?
Yeah, you talk about an adrenaline rush. So I shot the deer and he ran off, and he made about 60 yards and he fell over. And I was like, probably wasn't the smartest thing to wait that long to shoot the deer, but it was pretty damn crazy. It was pretty awesome.
Man, if that was me, my heart would be beating on my chest. I don't know how I'd manage to keep it all together.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Man.
It's the things. It's like I wish I would have been filming back then some of this
Right.
shit, and it would have been just freaking gold.
Man, I really wish you did film it now because I really want to see that video.
Yeah. Yeah.
With being a bow hunter out there in Kansas and mainly focusing on the flatland of it, what would you say to someone that's new going out there hunting, new into archery, that only feels comfortable shooting maybe no more than 20, 25 yards? And
Mhm.
so, for instance, myself, I feel comfortable shooting up to 70. Between the two, how would you tell someone to navigate with a bow out there on that flat land of being able to, I, I don't know how to phrase the question, but I hope you see where I'm going with it. How do you what would you tell someone that's, I guess, how far would someone should be able to be comfortable shooting at out there?
I think, it was kind of like, I think me, Tyler, and Angel all kind of feel the same. We can shoot longer distances. We did the Elevate shoot with Elevate Christian Company last year in August, and we can all shoot, fairly good distances. We can hit them out to 80 yards. I feel pretty comfortable. The only thing with me, targets don't move, deer do. So I'm really leery about that. But all three of us on the team, I think really our comfort zone is in that 30 yards and in. So, whether it's a spot and stock, if I can get to that if I can get to that 30 yards, great. But if it comes down to it, he's broadside, he's not really on alert, whatever. If I got to shoot to 40 to 50, I'll do it, if the wind's down, whatever case may be. But like I said, usually our comfort zone is still at 30 yards. So if you're going to come out here and hunt, the best thing I can tell you to do is scout, put up cameras, boots on the ground, binocular, spotting scope, find where a buck's bedding. And the thing I can tell you to do is, like I said, since it is legal to bait in the state, is put bait out and try to get as close as you can to his bed without letting him know that you're there, and suck him to you and try to kill him that way is going to be your best option.
Now, with it being really windy out there, I know, for instance, myself, if it's a really windy day, I'm not pushing 50 yards. It's got to be 50 or within. Outside of that, no, that deer is getting a pass. With it being that windy out there, does that play into an account of your own personal decision making of how far you want to shoot at a deer?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If it's like I said, if it's dead calm out, I don't have a problem shooting out there at 50, 60. If I feel confident in my equipment and everything, if I can shoot out to 50 and 60, I will. But if it's calm, he's out there at 50 yards, but he knows I'm there. I mean, he's ears perked looking at me. I'm probably not going to take the shot because I know he's going to drop before my arrow ever gets there. I'm probably going to shoot over his back. But if he's just kind of got his nose to the ground, or if he's eating or whatever, yeah, I'll take that shot. But heck, you even get I would say even a 20-mile-an-hour wind, I'm probably going to try to get to within that 30 to 35 yards before I feel comfortable taking that shot.
Yeah. Because, man, that's something that I'm constantly debating on myself when I'm out there in the field of, do I take the shot? Depending on what do I do or not? And then outside of the weather, then you have to, like you said, you take into account, does the deer have a feeling that you're there? A lot of factors that a lot of people probably don't think of and compare it to Michigan to down there in Kansas. I mean, that's one thing I take that into account, but I think you might take it more into account down there in Kansas in the flatlands compared to what I would take it into account.
Yeah, for sure. As I'll tell you, I shot a buck. It's been a few years ago. I shot him at 70 yards, and we had a fairly good side wind, but I thought I compensated enough for that side wind and didn't, and ended up gut shooting the deer. And, waited 22 hours and went in, found the deer. He didn't really go that far, but, he was still trying to take his last breath. It hurt my heart to see that deer suffer that long. And I said, nope, no more. If it's not within, so far, if I don't feel completely comfortable with it, I'm just not going to take that shot, period. Because I think you feel the same ways, as hunters. And I think a lot of the non-hunters out there, or PETA, whatever you want to call them, don't get that, we're not out there just to kill deer. We're not out there just to murder these poor, innocent little animals. I think most hunters care more about the animals than they ever would. I don't want to wound a deer at the end of the day. I don't want to see anything suffer. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a bird, a coyote, a raccoon, whatever it may be. I don't want to see anything suffer. As much as I hate predators, I'm still going to do the best I can to make a swift, ethical kill on that animal. Like I said, I don't like seeing shit suffer, and I think you're probably the same way.
That's correct. I mean, that takes a huge into account of the type of shot that I'm going to take. I mean, there are times where I'm going to push my own limits, but I'm going to make sure I do it to make sure, though, no matter what, at the end of the day, I'm making sure it's going to be an ethical kill. I can tell you there's been 2 times where I shot a deer and I never found one. I never found them. And I know one I injured really badly because I was young and dumb. I thought I had a good angle. I was kind of on top of them, but I thought if I compensated I was maybe 14, 2 years into hunting. But at the time, 14, I know everything. Fuck you, I know everything.
Yeah.
But I took a shot and it only went into his top of his back. We never found it.
Mm-hmm.
That haunts me to that day. And then there was a time I shot a doe. I'm assuming she lived because when I replay it every time in my head, I hit her in that no man's, that fat spot right between the spine and the guts, that spot, no man's land. I think I hit her through there and it was a clean pass through. So I'm most likely she lived or just severely injured. But those 2 instances, those ones are going to haunt me the most. That's the one thing I can't stand because it haunts me every day. And for someone that thinks we're just out there, like you said, out there murdering these animals, no. The first thing that any hunter takes into account is this going to be a quick, clean, effective kill? Nope. Yep. All right, I'm not taking that. That's the very first thing. And for someone that doesn't, and not in the hunting, and they just assume this, like PETA, how dare you?
Yeah.
Because, like you said, we care more about these animals than anyone else does.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm kind of the same way as you. I've got 3 deer that I shot, and whether it was my own fault for rushing the shot or taking too far of a shot or whatever it was, there's a limit on my way, but I can sneak it through there. So I've got 3 arrows that are hanging from the rear view mirror of my truck. It's about that much of an arrow with the fletchings on them. And I hang that on my mirror so I look at it every single day. So I'm reminded of it. Do your due diligence to practice, take your time, and make sure that you make a good shot. And I know sometimes in the heat of the moment, things happen. There he is. I'm going to hope there he is real quick and try to make the shot. I get that. We've all been there. If you haven't been bow hunting very damn long, or very much at least. So, right. But that's just kind of my thing is I leave them there. So I'm just reminded that every time I go out to try to do the best I can to make that ethical shot, not take the questionable ones.
Yeah, those deer are going to haunt me the rest of my days, and hopefully that never happens again.
Yep.
With that being said, I had a couple questions before we get close to wrapping up for the night. Was there a hunting law there in Kansas that's like you might not agree with or you'd like to see change?
Let's see. The one thing I don't agree with is the state of Kansas, if you're a non-resident, you have to have a buck tag before you can buy a doe tag. So I honestly think that to get a non-resident doe tag, it should be pretty easy to get a non-resident doe tag. I don't agree with you have to buy a buck tag first before you get your doe tag. I really don't agree with that at all. I think it should be total opposite of that.
I was about to say, wouldn't you want the doe tag first? Then it's like a earn your buck type of tag. I think Wisconsin does it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way I think it should work, because you got all these guys that come in. Oh, I'm just going to come shoot my buck. Even I don't remember if Kansas gives you a doe tag as well, or if you have to buy it. But either way, it's like, well, I'm just going to come kill my buck and just screw killing a doe. Why would I want to kill a doe?
Right.
I hate that. Come. What I always try to do this last year didn't happen, because there were so many things that went wrong this last year. But I usually try to kill 2 does to every buck we take, to try to level that balance out a little bit. We've had years we kill 3 or 4 does a piece, to try to thin them out a little bit. I had a place, I actually lost it this year, which sucks, but I call it the sand pit. I don't even know what the buck to doe ratio was down there, but it was something just absolutely stupid. It was like 6 does to every buck or something, because all the guys around there that hunt, they're from out of state. They own land there, and that's really good property. They come, shoot their buck, and go home. That's all they do. There's no doe management, no nothing. So it's just completely overrun with does. I mean, in one night when you've got 42 different does coming by you, there's a damn problem. So,
Right.
We try to thin them out pretty good down there that year. We did a pretty good job of that. Like I said, I lost that this year. But that's ultimately my goal, is me and my kids, when we go out and hunt, if we kill our buck early, that's great. Now we got the rest of the year to kill does. Yeah. Or when it gets to December, January to our doe season, okay, it's time to go on the doe mission. You get as many doe tags as you can, and just you have to do that, in my opinion.
Here in Michigan, the doe numbers are just skyrocketing in a sense, because I think there's a bunch of problems of why they're increasing. One, because our hunting numbers are declining rapidly. 2, obviously, with the hunters, I feel like nowadays it's, I want to shoot that buck. I don't care about the does. Mm-hmm. And then you got the other hunters that are mainly out there to shoot the bucks, so they could feel some false satisfaction on social media when they post it. So they're trying to go after those big ones, and that's the only reason why everyone's shooting these bucks. And it's like, really? I mean, don't get me wrong. I want that big buck more than anything in the world. And I've tried going after does, don't get me wrong, but I have we call it a family law here in our family of, if we see a doe, you gotta wait at least a minute to see if any yearlings come out with her. And if she does, then she's off limits. And granted, yes, they can live on, the yearlings can live on their own. That's why the season's set up that way. I get that. It's just my own family thing. I agree with my dad with it. It's just something I'd feel bad taking the mom away from their kids.
Yeah, for sure. And I try to live by that too. If you've got a barren doe that can't have any fawns in early season, and if you're sure that she has no fawns, take her. But, once we get to late December, January, now they're big enough. They can be on their own. That's I'm not worried about that. That's why I kind of like to wait until that late season, or that doe season that we have in January, and try to kill them then.
Yeah, I always at least push to the end of December when I try to shoot my does. And I don't know what it is about the does here in the state of Michigan, but they are like freaking Einsteins, man. I don't know what it is. Every time I say I'm not going for a buck, I'm going for a doe. And I can never find one. And then when I do find one, they're constantly like, they move 2 inches and they look up. 2 inches, look up. They're just looking everywhere. And it's like, what's that guy from Georgia, the meme going around? It just makes you want to take a fat kid at Kmart. I get that feeling every freaking time, man.
Yeah. Well, no, when I went out and tried to kill those, late season this last year, all I had come in were bucks. There was 5 or 6 bucks in front of me, and not a single damn doe to be seen. I'm like, it's like, come on. And one of them is a shooter. He's sitting there, and I'm like, well, I'm already tagged out. I can't kill another buck. But it's like, what the hell? Come on. And then the one time I did have a doe come in, I screwed up the shot and shot over her, and it's like, oh, jeez.
It's always a doe, man. It's always a doe. It gets you every time. I don't know what it is. Well, John, we're getting close to wrap up tonight. Was there a story you didn't get to share, a topic we didn't get to cover tonight that you wanted to share or cover before we let you go for the night?
So I'm going to say, I want to talk a little bit about Angelo and I. No, let's talk about Tyler and Angelo were lucky enough to draw Kansas tags this year. So they got to come out and come hunt with me in November. That was just a really cool hunt. I had Tyler's dad, and Angelo here in camp. We all got to hunt together. It was Angelo shot his buck, I think, on the first day, and Tyler's dad, he had a few opportunities. It just didn't pan out, and he ended up killing one on the very last day that they were there. So it's kind of a funny story. He was in the stand. He knew where these deer were coming from every night. There were some really nice old bucks, and I mean ancient bucks that were coming in there. Well, he was parked on an oil lease road, and the guy that's out checking oil wells stopped at his truck and honked his horn. And so Tyler's dad ended up getting out of the tree stand and going back to the truck to see what this guy had done. And so he left a note on his truck that said, "Yeah, you can't park here and stuff." And it's like literally 30 minutes before dark. And Tyler's dad could have very easily just put his stuff in his truck, said, "Screw it, I didn't kill one. It is what it is." But he said, "I'm in Kansas. It's my last 30 minutes. Why am I not going to make the best of every single second of this opportunity?" So he ended up where these deer were coming like out of the field or out of the pasture and coming down the lease road and then walking down to where the tree stand was. He made a ground blind out of like tumbleweeds. He no more than made this ground blind out of these tumbleweeds and stuff and sat down, got ready, and deer started coming out. I mean, right in front of him. I'm talking 10 yards in front of him.
What?
He had the wind right, everything's perfect. And then coming up over the hill, he sees antlers, and he said, "Oh my God, that's a good buck." And he ended up killing that buck. The buck got to like 10 yards. He smokes him, and the deer actually runs across the wheat field towards his pickup and dies out in the wheat field. It was awesome. I mean, we were all like, when he called and said he shot one, we were like all in tears because it was just, he worked so hard for it, and he missed a couple of bucks throughout the hunt. And to have it happen like it was probably the last 15 minutes of his hunt to kill one, and it just like it ran literally toward the pickup and died out in the field was just amazing. That's got to be probably my favorite. That was probably my favorite hunt this year, was being able to hunt with those guys.
Oh, that's awesome. It was like God was telling him, "You know what? You worked so hard. We're going to have this deer go right near your truck and make you not have to track so hard."
Yeah. It was something else. And he ended up killing a buck that, crap, I think he was 8 or 9 years old. And it wasn't really big. He was probably 130-inch 8. But, it was just the fact that it was an old buck, and what he did to make it happen was just incredible.
Yeah. Man, it sounds like you guys are a good group of guys down there. I had fun talking to Angelo. I obviously had fun talking to you. Looking forward to trying to get Ty on the show for the week that we cover Pennsylvania. But yeah, that's just an awesome story, man. And that's what hunting's all about, is being able to have those memories with your close friends and your family. And that's why I love hunting, man. That's what I do. It's the sport of hunting, and to hear those stories like that, because those stories are eventually dying. Try and make it better, and do that. That's just a cool story, man. Yeah.
Well, and that's what I love, about the hunting community for the most part, is you can see somebody at a gas station and just, whether they're wearing camo or they got a deer sticker on their truck or whatever it may be, and you can run into these people, not know them from Adam, and sit there and have an hour-long conversation in the gas station with this guy, just swapping deer stories, how I went to Wyoming last year and killed this big 6x6 elk or whatever the hell it is. It's like if the hunters kind of almost stick together, as a community for the most part. There's a few bad apples out there, just like anything else. But for the most part, I mean, most of these people, like we were in a hotel in Topeka here in January or whatever, and I could just tell this guy, him and his family, when they were down in the pool there at the hotel, and I could just tell this guy was a hunter, and so we got to talking, and we sat there and talked for like 2 hours, and I could see my wife over there like, oh God. Yeah. She's like, you freaking hunters always fight each other. I was like, yep, we do.
We have a mental map in our head. It's like, that's a hunter. I got to talk to him.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, John, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time to come out and talk with us. For anyone that wants to reach out and to follow your story, how can they do that?
So you can look us up on Instagram. It's Legacy Pursuit on Instagram. And we also have a YouTube channel. It's just Legacy Pursuit. Go search for it there on YouTube. Me, Tyler, and Angelo are on Facebook. If you need to contact us, just send us a message. We're more than happy to talk with you.
All right, we'll make sure to put those on the our podcast when they get released. We haven't played up for the show. But again, John, thanks for coming on the show. I'll talk to you later, brother.
All right, thanks, brother. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, man.
Talk to you later, buddy. Oh, man. Episode 56, talk about a show. Great guest. Love John. John was probably my, how do I want to describe it? My first friend out in the hunting world that's out of state. It was pretty cool to meet him over the phone. We did a live together on their page. Awesome guy. Obviously, he got to watch the show with me tonight. Just an amazing guy. Wealth of knowledge down there in Kansas. He now popped the bubble, I guess, if you want to call it, to where now knowing Kansas is more of a flat on the west side and more hilly on the east side. Some reason I just have my brain that the entire state was flat. But yeah, that's my education at work there, even though I got a BA. But yeah, I just want to say thank you all for tuning in for tonight's show. I really appreciate it. Thank you for all the support. Much love. Again, this show can be controversial at times. All I ask is put a cord in the slot machine. And what I mean by that is to share the show. There's stuff that we can say on here that might be controversial that people might not like. We're gonna have topics like that. I know tomorrow, as for Tuesday, April 16th, 2024, it's gonna be episode 57. Right now, there's no guest for tomorrow, so it's just gonna be me coming on here and ranting and raving. There's a lot of stuff that I've been kind of pent up that I'm tired of it. And I'm tired of seeing things and hearing things, and there's no voice, especially in the hunting world and about the stuff that I'm going to be ranting about. I'm getting tired of it. So I'm going to be finally the one I'm going to say my opinion and give my speculation on things. And if people don't like it, I frankly don't give a shit. It's my opinion, and that's how we do things here at Whitetail Advantage, and we're going to speak the truth. We're going to speak how we see things, and we're going to be yeah. We'll get into that on tomorrow's episode. But with that being said, I just want to say thank you all for the love and the support. It really means a lot to us here at Whitetail Advantage. Things are going to be moving quickly. Things are going to be changing. Tomorrow is going to be a lot of news breaking into what's happening here at Whitetail Advantage. Obviously, you guys know we have a website. So before we leave tonight, I just want to say, check us out on our website, whitetailadvantage.com. We have all links to our social media pages. If you feel free to reach out to us, we're always welcome. We're an open book here at Whitetail Advantage. So reach out to me and my team. With that being said, let's just have a good rest of the night, and we'll see you all on tomorrow's show, episode 57.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Whitetail Advantage Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next time.